Hi guys, today I am. Oh, I'm going to close the window. Today I am unhauling a bunch of books because I don't want them anymore. Actually, very recently I switched rooms with my sister who lives here with me, and because she used to have like a small room and then a studio, and I used to have a big room, but now she has the big room and I have the small room and the studio. So when I moved and I put all my things here in the studio, I wanted to have I wanted bookshelves basically, because all my books used to be like in drawers. So now that I have a shelf for all my books, I realized that there are a lot of books that I don't really want to have anymore. Many of them are actually classics that I already have in English or that I want in English because I study English literature. So I thought it was a bit redundant to have two of them, or sometimes I just want to buy them in English even though I already have them in Spanish, because I prefer to read them in English so that later on I can actually use them if I want to. I don't know, it just makes sense to me, okay? Some people have already told me that it makes no sense for me to get rid of the Spanish books and buy them in English. I don't know. It makes sense to me, okay? And I don't really have that many books. I used to want to collect a lot of books. Now I don't know, I think that I realized that I prefer to have just the books that I actually read and use, or that I really want to read in the future. And I just don't collect books anymore. I'm also very much in love with my school library and the public library around here also. So most of the books that I read are actually from the library. So yeah, I'm going to get rid of a lot of books. Here we have a Spanish edition of Sense and Sensibility, and this one is actually very used up. I also have Persuasion and Sanditon or Sandition, I don't know, I heard both ways. Also by Jane Austen, and this one is also very used, not because I have read it, because I haven't read Persuasion, but I have read the unfinished. Sanditon was like her last book, but she died before she could complete it. And I actually read those chapters. That's why the book is a bit like damaged here, because I used to carry my books everywhere. So yeah, I'm going to get rid of that one as well. This is also a very pretty edition. This one and the previous one I think are very pretty editions, but I don't really like hardcovers. I think they're a bit uncomfortable to read. So yeah, I'm also going to get rid of this one. This is again Emma by Jane Austen, and this one is in Spanish as well. And then I have these two books by Patrick Rothfuss in Spanish. I think that in English they're called like the name of the wind and wise man's fear, something like that. In Spanish, El nombre del viento and El temor de un hombre sabio. And I haven't read these either, because I'm very scared that the author is never going to publish the third part, and I just don't feel like reading an unfinished book series. And I bought them so that I could like be ready whenever the third part would come out, and it never did. So I'm just going to get rid of them, and if he ever publishes the third part, then maybe I'll read it in English. This one is just like about women in literature, both writers and readers, and I think that even critics. But I just don't really like the perspective that it is written from. I just don't find it very interesting anymore. I bought this one when it was like very I don't know, everyone was reading this book for some reason, or at least you could see it everywhere, maybe because it's very like aesthetically pleasing, But yeah, I just don't feel like reading it anymore. And a lot of the stuff that it's in here I actually have learned from school already, so I don't think that I'm going to read that one. So I'm just going to sell it. Then I have Los Miserables, Les Miserables, I don't know how the title in English goes. How the title goes in English? Okay. Yeah, I have this one also, and I haven't read it. And I'm going to buy it in Spanish again. I just want a more like comfortable version, because this one is very small but very heavy and thick, and I just don't like it when books are like this. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'm getting rid of it. I also have this book of poems by Sappho, who is the Greek poet, a female Greek poet, and like Sapphic relates to Sappho. And I love to read about her and her poetry, and I have actually read her poems, but this edition is very cheap, and I already have a new one. I mean, it's not new, I also bought it secondhand, but it's prettier, and it has like the poems in Greek on one side and on Spanish on the other. This one, it's just prettier. This edition of Macbeth by Shakespeare, and yeah, I'm only selling this one because it's in Spanish, because I have read Macbeth in English. I have this Agatha Christie book, Blade Runner by Philip K. Dick. This one is actually originally in Spanish. This one is just it's like a poetry collection of Góngora, who is a Spanish writer from the 17th century, I think, 18th, I don't know, or 16th. Who knows? I just don't want it anymore. I have another poetry collection, but this one is by an Argentinian writer. Her name is Alfonsina Storni. I do like her, but this edition is just very cheap, and I don't want to have it anymore. And also, there are certain parts that are like very faded out. This one is very weird. I bought it secondhand as well. It's an Alice Walker collection of short stories, and this one is a weird book because it's like an advanced reader's copy, I think. I bought it because I saw that it was Alice Walker, and I had just read The Color Purple, which is one of my favorite books, even though Alice Walker has recently come out with some very problematic opinions. So yeah, even though she has said some stuff, I still want to read other works by her, other texts, but I want to read them in English because I read The Color Purple in English, and the language that she uses is so important to her style, to her narrative. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, because again, it's not supposed to be sold, so I don't know if I can donate it to any library or something. I'll just see what I can do. All right. So apart from those, I also have this very big gorgeous collection that I started buying when I first moved here, and it's like a collection of classic books, and a lot of them are either written by women, also have like female protagonists. They use a lot of space, and I don't want them anymore. So I've been trying to sell these, but I want to sell them all as a collection, because I don't know, I just think that I just want these books to get a good home, and it's been hard finding someone who actually wants all of them. So I don't know, maybe I'll stop being picky and just sell them individually. Yeah, most of these are also originally in English, and some of them I have already read in English, and others I have actually never read, but I want to read them in English. Sorry, I know that I'm repeating myself a lot, but it's the same reason I'm getting rid of most of these for the same reason. I'm just going to show you, and then I'll be telling you. So here's Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton, Emma by Jane Austen, Little Women by Lou May Alcott, Pride and Prejudice also by Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibility also by Jane Austen, Northanger Abbey is also by Jane Austen. I read this one this year actually. In January I read Northanger Abbey for the first time, and Sense and Sensibility I read in Spanish. Pride and Prejudice I have read both in English and in Spanish, and Little Women also in both languages, and Jane Eyre I read in Spanish but in a different edition. I think that edition is back home, I'm not sure. The House of Mirth or Myrrh, something like The House of Myrrh. I think the title of in the English title for this one is The House of Myrrh by Edith Wharton. Persuasion also by Jane Austen. Again, I have not read this one. I think it's the last one of her big novels that I have left. Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. And finally, this one is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. And I did read Wuthering Heights last year, but I read it in English because it was for class. But I also used this edition of all of the ones that I just showed you. This is the only one that I have actually read in this specific edition, and I didn't even finish it. I just read like the first maybe 50 pages or so, but I carried it around for a long time, so this one is actually very you can see that I read it. So yeah, that's the only one that is a bit like not in great condition. I only have that one bookshelf, by the way. I don't really have that many books, but I just don't feel like I need that many anymore. I'm happy with the amount that I have, and I do want to collect more of them, especially like in maybe those are all the books that I'm going to be getting rid of. And I don't know, I just feel like I want to have more space for books that I'm actually going to read and books that I am going to use, and not just have a bunch of unread books just sitting there and collecting dust. And that's why I'm doing this. So I don't know what I'm going to do with a lot of them, but I just hope that they get a nice home somewhere else. And that's all for today. Bye.